This continent of Africa must be one. I hear you saying, he says, the borders must be open. The borders must be opened. There is no Mozambique here. There is no Swaziland here. There is no Lesotho here. There is no Botswana here. Zambia or Namibia. There is no Zimbabwe. There is Africa, the continent of our ancestors. We don't want anything that looks like colonialism. We want to be one thing with our sisters in Tanzania, in Nigeria, in Egypt, in DRC, in Sudan, in South Sudan, everywhere else in Africa. We don't want passport, we don't want visa, we must move free of charge. We are one thing. This continent is one.
Hello world, my great people. This is your boy Golden Boy, and I'm really grateful that you clicked on this video. And today's topic, we want to talk about this thing called money and what is it. It has value. Does it have value to African countries? At the same time, we also want to talk about the power of unity in Africa. So for a long time, you'll see that Malema is really struggling for African countries to break this chain of visa, where countries can no longer have boundaries. Now, this is my view, and I don't want to waste your time. Neither do I want to waste your data. Now, I want us to jump into this video, then see you at the end, and we discuss as time goes by.
We unite or we perish. Our generation, he says, fought for the liberation of Africa. It is the duty of the new generation to carry the torch forward. That as I travel along across the world, people do not care about our Tanzanianness or our Ghanaianness or our Kenyanness or our Ethiopianness. In their eyes, we are all Africans. And perhaps that is what we should use as the building block in order to talk about African. Republic of Congo conflict. Go to Burkina Faso conflict. Go to Mali conflict. Go to Chad conflict. Go to Niger conflict. Go to Cameroon conflict. Go to Nigeria conflict. Do I go on? That is the state of the continent. So that even when we talk about intercontinental trade, you tell me, can you drive from Addis Ababa to Dakar in Senegal? Unless you are Daredevil himself. Which group will not kidnap or ambush you? That is the state of the continent, because we are weak and disunited. I fly from Nairobi, Kenya for 1.5 hours. I come from the shilling zone. I go into the birr. 33 currencies in Africa. 33 currencies, none of which is used to conclude transactions anywhere. I come to Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, and I show my shilling. They say, what is this? But let me show the dollar. Oh, this is it. Let me show the euro. This is it. 80% of transactions in Africa are concluded outside of the continent in dollars. So you may have the central bank or the federal bank of Ethiopia, or Mickey Mouse. You may have the central bank of Kenya, Mickey Mouse. You may have all these 54 central banks useless. Because we are not playing in the real league, we are playing in the small league. That is why when the Chinese president summons all our presidents, and they summon them, the letters may be polite, but it's summons. They go to Beijing, tails between their legs, and they are told. Then the Chinese president gives Africa $60 billion. $60 billion. What is $60 billion? George Bezos has more than that given to a whole continent. That is the state of the continent. So as you have the honor and privilege of serving in the government of Ethiopia, and as you think about integration, that is the continent in which you are now, weak. 2 weeks ago, I watched.
What I want to talk about is that his point is about money, where is very, very important, while now we want to talk about what is said about money. Now, when you go to China, China has offered 60 billion when it comes to Boris Johnson, who was the Prime Minister of the UK. But here, Boris Johnson offered 160 million pounds to the whole Africa to develop hydropower. And you also have to think that, as I thought that he meant to say that Africans do not understand money, so that they are attracted to breadcrumbs, and it is something that is an insult to Africans. But it is unknown if Africans rulers saw it that way. Now, when you go to what Piolo Lumumba says that the fear is not on universal, and the continent will be a unitary state, so such that some countries may choose to cede their nationalhood and sovereignty to emerge into newly entity. Now, what if we talk about the one money as African? For example, when you come to East African shillings, there is something that is called EAC, which was turned into EF. Now, others are headed into the opposite direction with such balkanizations or the secessions from within. See, now when you see Niger, you'll be really oppressed, and when you go to the also Cameroon, you'll also be oppressed. Now look at how they are being examples. For example, when you go to ECOWAS, with its current impasses with the Francophone breakaway countries, for regional examples, ultimately it will be up to the respective populations themselves to determine how they choose to move forward. Now, all the 54 of them, their decision will be represented. Now, the Francophone breakaway countries are the current template when it comes to emancipation of the continent. If your country or population is not clearly and affirmatively in support of their initiative and has not followed suit with their regards or to expelling globalization and new colonist entities from their lands, that is their progressives. But then it is not reasonable to believe that those breakaway countries will abandon their initiative to return to their subjections that continued presence of external entities give rise to. So some countries prefer to stand alone than to lay down together in chains, which some countries are not even understanding. Even as much as we are not going to talk about this unity, some countries prefer to stand alone, while others prefer to unite. There are a lot of countries which are breaking chains. Now, I want you to take you through the Afro, which my partner is going to take you through, and it's called Raphael.
Raphael, so I'm taking you through this. The conversation on the introduction of a common currency of East Africa, Shafro, and probably the common currency for all African nations, that's Afro, is a good news to the region. This means enhancing economic integration among East Africa countries, simplifying trade, reducing currency exchange costs, and promoting price stability. Also a big boost to trade and investment, facilitate cross-border transaction, and foster a sense of region unity and cooperation among the members of the nations. The catch is at the implementation, which could require seamlessly coordination and cooperation among the 8 East African nations to fast-track successful adaptations.
Now imagine if all African countries could unite. What will Africa be? We will be far way ahead of these European countries. If we don't include bad leadership, if we don't include corruption, if we don't include the embezzlement of funds from the government projects. Now you'll find that in our country, Kenya, there are some MPs, some who were elected recently, that is 2022. They never had cars, they never had big mansions. Now what happens now? If you come to our countries, these people are flouting money. These people are flouting with a lot of money. It is not that it is something that is not common to many countries. It is common to many African countries. To mean that African countries are very, very greedy, and they don't see the people's interest. They don't see those people who voted for them. Now, I don't want to talk much about this. We only want to talk about the context of where PLO Lumumba was trying to tell African that money is not a big problem. As much as the African countries right now are in debt, as much as many countries right now are being indebted. Look at the Ethiopia, as much I have talked about it so much. Look at Ghana. It is a country that right now they can't even offer. They can't be offered any loan at all. It is these funds which they are usually given, it goes to other politician pockets. And I'm not trying to say that it is bad. It is something that is very, very common to many countries. Now, we go to visas. Our country, our president, initially, he said that Kenya will be a visa-free country. And do you know that it is having impacts on African economy? Do you think it is going to attract many tourists in Africa, in Kenya? Do you think countries will exchange more cultures? Countries will benefit on many things. Now, take an example of what will happen if many African countries come together and remove that thing called visa. It is these visas, it is these boundaries that are making us not to get united, that are making us not to have a cultures, that are not making us to have that our own opinions. And that's it that I wanted to talk about it. As much as we are trying to get united, as much as we are trying to waken up, I think that many African countries should just try and get united. As my brother said about the Eastern coin, that it is going to strengthen many East African countries. What if Africa has one coin which can be used for trade? Then I think many countries will develop. There will be a lot of unity, and this thing will go down, and even the poverty will not be an issue. Thank you for watching this video. My name is Golden Boy, and
I'm Rafael Nyantika.
Yeah, so I thought this content is very good for you, and see you in the next episode, that is 74.